Warning, the following program has been rated T for truth.
You can't handle the truth!
Oh, we think you can. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report with your host, truth warrior and mythbuster Kathleen Wells. The place where we distinguish fact from fiction, where data is used to drive points home, and where Kathleen takes the position that Democrats and black politicians have destroyed black America. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. Now, your host, Kathleen Wells.
Welcome. This is Kathleen Wells, your host of the Naked Truth Report. I'm glad to have you. We're going to get straight to my guests. They're not on the line yet, but I have the Papadopouloses. And it's going to be the real story, or a true story. You're going to hear the true story because actually, as I mentioned last week, the Mueller report has inaccuracies and omissions. So the Papadopouloses will set the record straight, so to speak. So we're waiting for them to come on the line. In the meantime, what should I do? I think I would like to play, because what have they been talking about in the news? What have they been focused on in the news? The fact that the Democratic nominees are gaining in the polls, or rather that rather that Trump cannot possibly beat Biden in some states. Well, we know that the polls are not accurate, right? Because we know they said forever during the 2016 campaign that Hillary had an 80 or 90% chance of winning. Yet you see the results, right? So and it's too far out anyway, but anyway, the polls are unreliable. But it's an indication how the media, the mainstream media, is misleading. It misleads the people. It misleads the American people. And that's why I'm so excited to have the Papadopouloses on my show, because they are going to inform the American people. They're going to inform my listeners, my truth warriors, my mythbusters, as to what actually took place, why the counterintelligence surveillance was actually started, what triggered it. Do we have him on the phone yet, Josh? Oh, did you dial the number? Oh, well, we're trying to get them on the line. Well, why don't I play an audio, Jeff? Why don't I play the Dick Morris audio where he's talking about how, while we're waiting for the Papadopoulos to get on the line, why don't we play the audio where Dick Morris is talking about the fact that this campaign with the Democrats is beginning to look a lot like the 1968 campaign, where... I'm sorry? Oh, really? They can't make it. So George had to cancel at the last minute. Isn't that unfortunate? So why don't we play Dick Morris's audio of how the Democratic candidates who are running for president resemble what took place in 1968. Can you play that, Jeff?
1968 was the worst nominating process any political party has ever had during the convention system. The Democratic Party was torn apart, and because of that, Nixon walked into the White House, and Hubert Humphrey, the Democratic nominee, came close, but really never had a chance. We may be watching the reenactments of 1968 in 2016 in the Democratic nominating process. You have an establishment candidate, an old one who's been around forever. It used to be Hubert Humphrey, now it's Joe Biden. And you have a strong revolutionary left-wing movement seeking to take over the Democratic Party. In previous times, it was Eugene McCarthy, George McGovern, and Bobby Kennedy. Now it's Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, and the other liberal candidates. And just as you had in 1968, the establishment is coalescing behind Biden, just as they did for Humphrey, claiming that he's the only one that can defeat Trump just like in 68, they said Humphrey was the only one that could beat Nixon. And that primary process, as it unfolds, I think is going to spawn resentment and anger and fury on the left if they feel they're being denied their moment in the sun, and that reprocessed, homogenized, recycled Joe Biden is going to be the Democratic candidate. And you may see the kind of dramatic splits that destroyed the Democratic chances in 68 resurfacing now.
Oh, okay. So that was Dick Morris. As you guys know, I didn't really prepare a show this evening, and I just got a text saying that he has to reschedule, and that's okay. So we'll have him on another time. That'll be a good thing. So what I want to talk about now is that was Dick Morris saying that the Democratic candidates who are running for president, the Democratic candidates, it's a repeat of 1968, and we know how that worked out. However, yet the mainstream media is letting us know, or is giving us the impression that it's going to actually be a competition. People actually believe, the Democrats actually believe, and you guys know I listen to Washington Journal. The Democrats this morning, they were talking about that. They literally believe that Trump is going to lose. I believe he's going to win by a landslide. I believe it's going to be a repeat of 1968. Undoubtedly. However, I did listen to a Fox poll this morning, and I hate these polls because I think they're misleading. We know they're misleading because in 2016 they said that Hillary would definitely win, definitively by 90%. But I heard a poll this morning that said something to the fact, because of what Trump said in his response to George Stephanopoulos with ABC. He had this is like everyone went sort of berserk over what President Trump said in response to George Stephanopoulos. That he would not necessarily call the FBI if he was contacted by by someone from a foreign government with information that was credible. He would not necessarily, but I think, we were conflating the two. They were conflating the two. One is talking about during a campaign before Trump was president, and another is talking about when Trump is now president. So if Trump said, if I were contacted by Norway, an ally, well, of course I'd be interested in knowing. It would be a dereliction of his duty not to take the information. So I'm assuming it would be information about an opposing candidate. If there was information that Norway, an ally, was able to give Trump about some dirt, and this is curious. This is why I'm anxious to have George Papadopoulos and his wife Simona, who I met both of them, to have them on so we can talk about this information. How when someone is offering information, should an opposing party or a foreign service or a foreign party is offering dirt on your opponent, should you take that information? Should you be open to taking that information? So obviously, Don, this is the issue. Don Jr. was open to receiving information on Hillary, or rather, quote, air quotes, dirt on Hillary Clinton. He was willing to meet someone if they had dirt on Hillary Clinton. Now, is that oppositional research? I think it is. And also we know, we've all heard the audio of Adam Schiff being open to taking information, dirt on President Trump before he was, I don't know if it was before he was president or during the campaign. I can't remember the date on that. But Adam Schiff was open to taking dirt on Trump. And if that was a gag, we all heard it. You can hear that on Dan Bongino's show. But there was dirt that some Russians, it was a gag because they weren't like Russian spies or officials or anything like that. They were Russian comedians. But Adam Schiff was open. In fact, he even had a code word that they would have to use. He was open to taking dirt on Trump. That's called oppositional. And this is something that Trump said to George Stephanopoulos. He said, well, all the politicians do it. You're kidding yourself if you think that politicians do not take are not open to taking information that is dirt on an opponent. You're not living in the real world. And yet, the Twitter feed, or, the social media and the news media, they all went berserk because Trump didn't answer. Well, now they're characterizing it as the fact that maybe he didn't answer the question properly, or it wasn't, or he didn't say things in a way that would be proper. Because, I remember hearing that Attorney General Barr in his testimony said, well, of course, if a foreign government or a foreign official is offering you information on your opponent, yes, you must contact the FBI because that goes against protocol. Attorney Barr testified to that. So I think it's a gray area, because I think they were conflating two things when someone is in a campaign, and then also the president. If the president is receiving information from an ally, well, of course, it would be a dereliction of his duty if he didn't take that information. So, I think, I hate how I say, I hate how I say that. I got to stop saying it. And at least this time I caught myself. I heard myself saying it, and I said it. So I didn't really catch myself, but I heard myself saying, I want to stop saying that. I'm going to stop saying that. But we will now listen to, since I didn't prepare, I thought George would be here definitively. I didn't prepare my bullet points. So now we're going to listen to another audio clip, because some folks haven't heard it. Most of my Truth Warriors have heard it. This audio clip is going to be Father Basio. So we're going to now shift gears to illegal aliens again.
Shock that I got seeing that young black men could not even work in Harlem. That was a transforming moment for me. It was an epiphany for me, because I had always been of the opinion, I admired Cardinal Mahoney out in California. When he was a young fella, a young priest, he wanted to help everybody, feed them, clothe them, everything. And I picked that spirit up from Mahoney myself. And suddenly I began to see things in a totally different light. One of that's really dear to my heart is that illegal immigration is crushing the American black community. It is depriving them of jobs. I told you about my experience in Harlem. It's depriving them of jobs. It's making the black man feel like not like a man. He can't support his family. He can't. And the black man has been in this country for 400 years. My family can't boast that. My father was born in Italy. I'm not as American as the average black person. And we are driving Americans, legal Americans, into poverty because illegals are coming in and taking jobs away from Americans who are legally here, the blacks who've had a long history of building up this country with their physical labor. I think it's terrible. It's terribly immoral. And I'd like the bishop to speak out on that subject and say, look, we have an obligation to our black community. We can't destroy the good just because there's another good that causes evil. We have to choose the good. And the good is to help the members of the black community. That's another one of the immoral aspects of this problem.
Okay, well, that came on quicker than I thought. I was going to say a few things, but we segued into not having George here, Papadopoulos, to the fact that Trump talked about the fact that, yes, he would take information from a foreign official that was offering info on an opponent, so to speak. Yeah. That became a big stink for the social media folks and for the mainstream media. And then we segued into, it was sort of an awkward segue, right? But we segued into illegal immigration and illegal aliens, rather, and that was Father Basio. And his book is The Immorality of Immigration. I wanted to play that again because I think I have new listeners. Okay, I have new listeners and they're not aware of this stuff. And I think there's still too many folks, still too many Black Americans that are pro-Democrat, that want to vote Democrat. And I heard it today on Washington Journal. You guys know I listen to that every morning. And they always have Democrat callers that call in that they hate Trump. He should be impeached. He's committed treason. He's this, that, and the other. But they have not conducted their research, because the primary issue for American citizens, which has been for decades, is illegal aliens. This has been an ongoing process for decades, okay? Decades, this has been a problem. We have a crisis at the border. We've had a crisis at the border for decades, actually. In fact, Obama said it was a crisis when there were only 120,000 folks at the border. Or 120,000 folks that got in, that were apprehended, that got in. Now we're at 400,000 people who have gotten in. And the latest thing that I've heard from Trump in his written agreement with Mexico, is that he requires that in that agreement, part of the terms of the agreement is that Mexico would send back every day at least 1,000. U.S. would be able to send back 1,000 people to Mexico. People who have been apprehended in the United States, who have entered illegally, we must send back, this was part of the terms of the agreement, they must send back 1,000 per day. So we're not even deporting people anymore. As we know, we have at least 12 million illegal aliens in the U.S. as we speak, at least 12 million. We're not even deporting people because we have a crisis at the border, and all of the border folks are dealing with this crisis. There are not enough border official people to deport, to go out and do enforcement, to start deporting folks. So we're dealing with this crisis. So Trump entering into this agreement with Mexico was the best thing. But I'll tell you something, the mainstream media, and this is what I talked about when I was tweeting, is that when I tweeted, I tweet on to Washington Journal when they talk about things. The mainstream media is 90% negative Trump. 90% negative Trump. Now, Washington Journal reads articles from the mainstream media. That includes the New York Times, the Washington Post, and all these other sites. Negative, negative, negative. 90% negative Trump. Nothing is ever good. So therefore, the Washington Journal, Democrats call in and they praise Washington Journal. Oh, you're not biased. But if you're reading from the Washington Post and the New York Times, those headlines, and not reading the Epic Times, you're biased because it's 90% negative. Anyway, on the Washington Journal this morning, they had a man, I can't remember his name, but he was talking about, because today is Father's Day. I want to say happy Father's Day to the fathers out there and the grandfathers and uncles. Everyone knows I love my daddy. He was the best daddy I had. But for my father, I wouldn't be the woman I am today. This is the truth. So they had on Washington Journal, I can't remember his name, but he was talking about the importance of fathers. We know that the family is the most important institution in society. Reasonable people, intelligent people, wise people know that the family is the most important institution in society. So, I tweeted, I didn't call in, but I tweeted because you had people dispute, saying, well, if the father is abusive, it's not, how liberals are. If the father is abusive, it's not a good thing to have him in the home, blah, blah, blah. But that's an anecdote. In fact, that was a woman calling in from California, naturally. A woman calling in from California saying, well, if the father is abusive, it's not a good thing to have him at his home. But most men are not abusive. We are talking about the overarching theme is that it is best to have both parents in the home. It is the norm is the general theme, the overarching narrative is that it is best to have both parents in the home. Reasonable people realize this. Intelligent people, wise people realize this. When you're always trying to look for outliners or something that, this is what Democrats have done. They have made abnormal or an outliner or an anecdote or something that is unusual or not the norm. They try to make They try to shape public policies around something that's not the norm. That's what they did. So anyway, I tweeted to the guy that was talking about how this is Father's Day. It's better to have both parents. I tweet, free sex feminism, because one guy, naturally a black guy, called in and said, well, daddies are out of the home because of mass incarceration. Well, mass incarceration is an element and is one element why daddies are out of the home. But before mass incarceration, there was free sex feminism and LBJ's Great Society. So that came before mass incarceration. So LBJ's Great Society and free sex feminism. Free sex feminism is have sex, have relations, be intimate, whoever you want to be with, whenever you want to be with them, wherever, whoever they are, with no commitment, no marriage. That's what feminism brought the late 60s, early 70s. That is what feminism, how it shaped the culture. You can have sex and relations with whoever you want without a commitment. And so we've been living this, because the man, I don't remember his name. I would have written it down if I thought I was going to talk about it, but I didn't think I was going to talk about it. I thought I would have George on the show, George Papadopoulos. But he has a book out, actually. And you could probably Google, like, Washington Journal, who was the guest on today's date, right? Anyway, he was saying that, the father is the most important institution in society. And he indicated the data shows that between 1960 and 1980, or something like that, 1960 or 1990, there has been a dramatic decrease of traditional two-parent families. Dramatic. So as soon as free sex feminism came in the mid 60s, early 70s, then you get what? The father being out of the home. For all Americans, it has most dramatically impacted Black Americans, yes, but even white Americans, all Americans are suffering because of divorce. Just the whole culture has changed because free sex feminism. I've discussed this before on the show. I said, we've had liberal ideology for 5-6 decades, which includes free sex feminism, which includes LBJ's Great Society. It hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. So now the pendulum needs to swing back the other way. Am I right? And the pendulum did swing back the other way with respect to putting Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court. Even though on one issue he voted liberal, but I know as a general proposition, we can anticipate that Kavanaugh will vote in a conservative manner. And voting in a conservative manner is good for society. We've tried it with liberal ideology for 5 to 6 decades, and it's been a complete and utter failure. Now, when Bernie Sanders is talking about income inequality, one of the reasons why there's so much income inequality is, two of the reasons why there's so much income inequality is because illegal aliens, which we have 12 million at least in the United States, suppress wages, make wages stagnant. That's one of the reasons. And the other reason is because we don't have two-parent homes. We don't have fathers in the home contributing economically. There's my music. You guys can call in and talk about whatever you want, because I really thought George would be here. I thought for sure, but we're going to reschedule him. We're going to have him, believe me. But why don't you guys call in and I'll let you guys say whatever. It's like free for all day. You can call in and talk about whatever you want. We'll be right back. This is the Naked Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells. Welcome back. This is the Naked Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells. One of my sponsors. Oh, what I want to say is, if you go to the nakedtruthreport.com, you can see me in the studio. or if you go to the Facebook page, well, a lot of you aren't on my Facebook page, but and I'm blocked actually on my other page where I have like 5,000 folks on the other page, but I'm blocked because what did I do? I criticized the Mexican government, and I guess someone reported me, and they blocked me for 30 days. Can you imagine? I mean, geez, as if the Mexican government shouldn't be criticized. We've got at least 12 million of your citizens in the country illegally. You should be criticized for that. Yeah. Anyway, and also you go to the nakedtruthreport.com. You can see me in the studio. Also, my sponsor, I have their poster board up, ustechworkers.org. If you're a tech worker, I would like to encourage you to go to ustechworkers.org. Get involved. This U.S. Tech Workers is a subsidiary or a subgroup of Progressives for Immigration Reform. Yeah, that's a good thing. And also, go to my website and check out Dr. Claude Anderson's library pack. You can order it at powernomics.com. His library pack for $99. So we were just talking about today is Father's Day. Today is Father's Day. So fathers are wonderful. The family is the most important institution in society. So one of the guys called into Washington Journal because they were talking about the importance of fathers today on Washington Journal. And he said that Black Americans had more two-parent families, 87% than white families during the 30s and in the 30s and 40s and 50s, I think. I don't know. I can't remember the exact dates. I think in the 30s. And there was a time, I'll put it this way. There was a time frame when Black Americans had more, 87% two-parent families, had more two-parent families than white families. Now, when you know this data point, when you realize this, and when you realize that families are, all you have to do is observe society. This is why I have to think that Black folks who have continued to vote Democrat, can't be observant. That's a way to put it nicely. Can't be knowledgeable. That's a way to put it nicely. Must not observe reality. Must not conduct research. That's a nice way to put it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like obvious that society, Black America has degraded, that's the word I want to use, has degraded from when I was a child. We can't afford, we have not progressed, we have regressed economically. Our families have been degraded, have dissolved, that's another word, have fractured. When your family has fractured, you have nothing. You can't win. You have no backup. You have no support system. As I said, I would not be the woman I am today, but for my father. I am very fortunate. I am not like the average Black woman. No. My life is not like the average Black woman. My life is not like the Black women I grew up with. No, it's not. Why? Because I had a daddy. That's why. I mean, aside from the other things, like I'm super smart, no, but which I am, right? But I mean, but more importantly, I mean, you could be super smart and not have a daddy, and things aren't that kosher. Because my daddy provided opportunities for me. Do you understand? And he made sure when he's left, I was set. Do you understand? Anyway, why don't I take a call now from Robert on line 1. Hi, Robert. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
Hello, Kathleen.
Hi.
This is Robert. Yes, thank you for taking my call.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit, Robert. Are you on a cell phone? Can you get in a better...
I'm going to try on a headset and see if I can get you on my...
No, you're breaking up. Can you get in a better area?
Is that better?
Wait. Talk?
Yes, is that better?
Well, yeah, I got to keep talking for a bit.
Okay. Well, right now, I'm hoping you hear me.
Yeah, that's fine.
But, all right. Now, right now, I'm a semi-retired general contractor. I'm still active in educating as many people as I can to the trades, and I'm saddened by the fact we don't have a Karl Rove technique, someone who's taking tally right now on how many people are hanging around Lowe's and Home Depot and places like that and there are in the hundreds and the thousands in the San Fernando Valley.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to have someone that would help us tally this so we can get an accurate reporting. Our construction workers are hurting because there are so many jobs being taken by immigrants. Now, I'm pro family. I'm pro having people get out there and make a living. I'm very much supportive of that. But I am very saddened by the fact we do not have accurate reporting, so the Democrats are seeing things truthfully. There's too many things being hidden from view. So if they don't see the truth, and you're working very hard, the Naked Truth is working very hard to educate, and I applaud you.
Thank you.
So I want to see an accurate accounting going on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, just quick in closing, I remember the Wausau riots. I was in Washington State at the time.
Mm-hmm. And
back then, there was a news forecaster was out there interviewing some of the ladies, and one of the guys asked, well, what'd your husband do? And she said, you don't have a husband to have children.
Mm-hmm.
So that was back then, and we've been plagued by this nonsense ever since. Big government is just destroying our families, and our men and women are suffering because they're on the doles, and we need to take and help them stand up. I am an educator for construction people. I'm pro-construction, and I will be reaching out to you more, Kathleen. I applaud you. Thank you. Love you, girl, and appreciate your good work.
I appreciate it. Yeah, you sent me a letter. I got it, and I think you formed some institute. I'd love to think of something that can be proactive, you know what I mean, that we could do to make a difference.
Thank you. I think we can. I really think we can. And I'm looking forward to meeting you and spending some time with you and doing some brainstorming with you. Thank you for your good work.
Oh, thank you very much, Robert. I appreciate it. Yeah. So, yeah, Nina Turner, who works for Bernie Sanders, she had a tweet today that said something like, she was responding to someone about Black men, it was something about extending the retirement age beyond what it normally is, extending. And she said, Black men work hard, hard labor, physical labor. They're blue collar workers. She specifically said they work in construction. This is Nina Turner. Now, I don't know where Nina Turner is from originally. I don't know where she's from. Is it where somebody may know? I'm thinking like Boston or something, but I don't know. No, I should know because I remember she ran for public office. She was a state senator. I should know, but I can't remember. This woman, I'm speechless. And, this is why I think most Black folks, they don't know what has happened to Black Americans in Los Angeles. They have no clue. But it's not just Los Angeles. I hear this is going on in other states too. Texas, Philadelphia. In fact, I have a clip I have an audio that I played from the guy in Philadelphia. He says all this construction work is not being done by Black Americans. There's so much construction work going on. Even in like states like Nevada, definitely New York. So in other words, so it's not just California. Black men are not, Black folks, I don't know what the heck is going on with Black folks, why some of them can't get it. I don't understand why they can't get it, why they don't observe what is taking place. You don't even see Black folks anymore in Los Angeles, really. I grew up here. We used to be everywhere in every neighborhood. We had neighborhoods. Now, they never really developed Crenshaw Boulevard. Like I've said before, Crenshaw Boulevard should have been, since we were sustaining the Democratic Party, since Black Americans were sustaining the Democratic Party for 6 decades, you would think that there would be Black businesses from Wilshire or at least Pico or Olympic, all the way down Crenshaw, all the way down to Inglewood. For 5, since we've been sustained, and yet that has never been the case. 5 decades of never developing Crenshaw Boulevard from like Pico all the way down to Inglewood. And they don't see this as bizarre. This is why I think, there's a problem. There's a problem. And another thing, these Democrats keep talking about education and jobs. Listen, honey, these Democrats have been talking about education and jobs for Black Americans for 6 decades. What do you think and poverty? What do you think LBJ's Great Society was about? I cannot understand why people don't get it. It's like they're just like sleepwalking through life or not observing reality. I just don't get it, why people don't get it. I don't get it. Maybe someone can call in and tell me what's the problem, because there's a problem. There's a problem when black folks continue to vote Democrat, when we used to have 87% two-parent family, when the family is the most important institutions in society, and now we only have 27. This is a problem. How come you can't see this as why don't you get it? And this is another thing. There was a black guy that called, they're always trying to justify and defend or deny the obvious, the indefensible. Because there was a black man that called into Washington Journal and he said, but I don't even know how they put it. It's so disturbing to me that people try to justify. He said something to the effect that, black men, when they are fathers, they're the best fathers. They're better than white fathers. Yeah, so what? It's like when they are fathers, or what he said, when they're not in the home. See, he's taking like a little sliver of, he saw this study that said when black fathers, when they're not even in the home, they're better fathers than white fathers. This constantly comparing blacks and whites is not healthy. First of all, white society is the dominant society. Dominant in the sense that they're the majority. I had one woman ask me on social media, she said, because I said that, I said, white society is the dominant society. She says, what do you mean by dominant? So this is meaning they are the majority population. They're more numbers. I mean, that's like so basic. Where black Americans are only 13% of the population. So we're the non-dominant society. We're the non-dominant group in society. That's why they call us minorities. I don't even want to use that term anymore, minorities, but we are the non-dominant group in society. The dominant group is the one with the larger numbers. It's that basic. See, this is another thing. I think a lot of black folks, they've been failed by the school system. They don't understand certain meaning, certain words, what they mean. So anyway, to constantly compare the non-dominant group, which is black America, we're non-dominant because we're not the majority of numbers, with the dominant group is foolhardy. It's a fool's errand. It's useless. You do not, logic 101, you do not compare unlike objects. You do not compare an apple to an orange. You do not compare a dominant group to a non-dominant group. It's a fool's errand. It's useless. Because when something impacts the non-dominant group, or when something impacts the dominant group, it will be dramatically more intense impacting the non-dominant group because they're smaller in numbers. It will spread more pervasively. It will have a more deleterious impact and effect because it's a smaller number. They're a subgroup of the dominant group. Do you understand that? When you have when you have large numbers, that's more impactful, more powerful, more dominant because they have larger numbers. Let me tell you something. Black Americans should definitely understand that because now they don't have large numbers in relation to Latinos. And you see how they are dominating Black Americans, requiring you to speak Spanish to get a job. Do you understand? Taking over neighborhoods, Inglewood, Compton, because they have larger numbers. See, black men. So anyway, when this man called in and said, well, when black men, even though they're out of the home, they're better fathers than white fathers. Who cares? You don't have any exact data on that. You don't know the numbers. on that. And who cares? White Americans can afford to be a little more derelict in their duty, can afford more things, can take more liberties because they're the dominant group, because they make more money than Black Americans. They're not subjected to the same things. So they have more freedom, more leeway to do things. Black Americans should be the best that they can be for Black Americans. Not like, oh, well, the dominant group isn't doing that, so we cannot do it too. No, it impacts you more severely because you're not the dominant group. Do you understand? You should be the best that you can be for your group, for yourself, irrespective of what the dominant group is doing, irrespective of what other groups are doing. You be the best that you can be for yourself. You don't do this for others. This is like simple logic to me. These are like simple principles to me. These are not complex issues. This is not brain surgery. And yet we've gotten all off track. We've gotten all off track. And I blame our so-called leaders. I blame our politicians. All they do is mislead Black Americans. They keep them confused. They say the opposite of what I say. They justify and explain. They justify everything. Oh, it's okay to have kids without a father. That's fine. Rap music, all that negative stuff, that's fine. That's not going to impact anyone. Negative, constantly bombarding the brain. Oh, that's not going to have an impact. Rap music, calling women the B word and the H word and calling each other the N word. Oh, that's not. Negativity isn't going to impact you. Well, look what we got today. Look where we are today. Regressing. As I said, Black Americans right after slavery own 1/2 of the wealth of America when there were only 200,000 free Black folks. Now we own 2% of the wealth of America and we're 13% of the population. That's called regression, folks. But you can't talk to my people. The majority of us, I don't know what we're doing. I can't get through to most of us. And I don't know why. They're so busy working, I guess, paying bills or just living their life. They're not thinking about things. They're just living their life, paying bills. I mean, you don't even see Black Americans in Los Angeles. They're homeless. They're homeless. You go down to Skid Row, and it's like tons of Black men down there homeless, and women. And some of them could work construction jobs. Some of them could work trade jobs. But now you got to speak Spanish to work a construction job. Why? Because they say the other guys speak Spanish. And it would be dangerous to have English speaking folks on the job because the other guys are speaking Spanish. And you listen to some Black folks and they say, well, you should learn Spanish. What? This is America. People are not required to learn Spanish to work in America. I just wish more of us would be logical and would be knowledgeable of what is actually going on. Maybe too many of us are. Maybe we're not. There's not old. I was going to say we're not old enough. We don't remember like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago how things were. Maybe that's it. But I can't believe that's it because you actually have older Black folks, I can tell they say they're older also, that, in their 50s and 60s and 70s that call into Washington Journal and they're just on this hate Trump bandwagon. That's it. That's all they know. They don't think about anything. They don't think about their family has disintegrated. They don't think about the fact that there are no fathers in the home. You go out, all you see is single Black women walking around. That's all you see in all these. It's all because, there's mass incarceration. That took place in the 80s and 90s. Michelle Alexander wrote that book, The New Jim Crow. Yes, there is mass incarceration. But before mass incarceration, there was LBJ's Great Society and free sex feminism. That came around in the 60s, the late end of the 60s and the early 70s. That took men out of the home. That came before mass incarceration. And when there's no father in the home, and this is something Judge Joe Brown talked about, when there's no father in the home, males tend to be either criminalized or feminized. And that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing, because there's no fathers in the home. Oh, and my gosh, and I was watching Ayana Van Zandt. That Ayana Fixed My Life. That's freaking depressing. It's really depressing, I gotta tell you. That show, Ayana, everything you see now is depressing. I'm sorry. If people don't have families, that's a sad state of affairs. That's the bottom line. Anyway, this is the Naked Truth Report. George Papadopoulos said he would reschedule with me. I don't know if it will be next week, but let's hope it's soon, because he's got some great information. This is the Naked Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells, and I'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.